Hello everyone and welcome to part 3 of our inventory system series. In the last part, we created the widget that displays the inventory and displays what items we have in our inventory. In this video, we will be creating the drag and drop and the ability to rearrange items the way we want. So we can drag this in here or whatever we want, wherever we want, or we can swap it with another item or stack it with another item of the same class if there is enough space. Okay, so let's get started. First, let's go into our inventory item slot widget. And in here, we need to we need to override a few functions. First one is on mouse button down. So this function is called whenever we click inside this widget. So here, when you click, this function will be called. And then here, we need to check if this function, first we need to check if the mouse button down is this one, left mouse button. And we need to check if we are dragging. So detect, drag if pressed. And the drag key is the same as this one. And here for the return, we need to do a select from Boolean and plug the return value to the return node. And if true, we want to return this, and if false, we want to return unhandled. The event reply to use when you choose not to handle an event. Okay, so technically it returns nothing. Now we want to override the on drag detected. And the first thing we need to do here is to create a drag and drop operation. For the class, leave it default 1. And the payload, first connect this return value to the return node. And the payload, this can be any object that you want to pass along as dragged data. If you were building an inventory screen, this would be the object representing the item being moved to another slot. So the payload would be self. This is the data that we want to drag. And default drag visual is a temporary drag visual that we display when we are dragging the item. So normally people create a new widget to represent the drag. So let's create a new widget here. Create widget. And the class is the same class. And for this stuff here, drag these. And promote this to a local variable called default drag visual. Plug it here and connect this here. For now, we don't need to do anything here. We will come back to it later. And let's go and override again the on drop. On drop is called when the user is dropping something onto a widget, ends the drag and drop operation, even if no widget handles this. So when we drop another widget on this widget, the on drop will be called. So what happens when we drop on this? We want to try and swap the items. So first, for the operation, we need to get the payload from it, and we need to cast to inventory item slot widget. We need to check if the cast was success. If not, we return false. If true, we promote this to a local variable called dragged object. Okay. Then we need to get the inventory component from the character. So our character, the inventory control that our character have. So get component by or find component. Where is it? Get component by class. Yeah, get component by class. Inventory component. Promote it to a local variable called inventory component. Then check if it's valid. If not, return false. And if true, drag it. And we need to call a swap. We don't have it yet. So let's go and create a function inside our inventory component. So in here, let's call the swap items. Make it public. And let's call it here. And return true after we call it. Now, inside our inventory component, inside this function, we need two parameters of type integer. First one is from index, and the second is to index. So technically, the first one is the item we are dragging, and the second one is the item we are dropping on. We are dragging to. Okay. So first, we need to get the slot, or of our slots, we need to get a copy at each index. Okay. Promote these to a variable, to local variables, and the from, let's call it from slot, and this one to slot. So this will hold data of our item that you are dragging, and this will hold data of our item that you are dropping on. Okay. First, we need to check if we are dropping this item on an empty slot. If you are dropping it on an empty slot, we want to set this empty slot to hold the new item, and we need to empty the old item slot to become empty. So first we check if it's empty. So we do this by getting the two. And we split it. And we need to check the quantity. If it's smaller or equal to 0, that means it's empty. So we need to get a reference. So get the slots array, get a ref, and we need to get it at the slot. Where is it? This get to index. Okay. Then we need to update it, set member, and the new data is the get from slot, split it, and connect these. Now let's duplicate this, but instead of 2, get from index, and set member also, and empty. Leave it empty because it's empty. So this, let's comment this, dropped on an empty slot, update the new slot to hold the new item data and empty the old slot. Next, if we didn't drop it on an empty slot, we need to check if we dropped it on an item that is similar, that is the same class of the item we are dragging. So if both of them are the same class, we need to check if they can be stacked. If so, we stack them on top of each other. So let's say we have a potion, max stack is 5, for example, and we are dragging 2 potions, and we are dropping them on 1 potion. So that should make the new slot have 3 potions, and the old slot should have 0. We should empty it. Okay, so to do this, we need to get the from and to, split both of them, and break the item data for each one. Let's hide everything except for the class and for the max stack. So if it's the same class and the max stack is bigger than 1, so technically, so what this means is if it's the same item and this item can have multiple items stacked on top of each other, then we do this. But what if it's a sword, for example, or a weapon and a gun cannot be stacked on top of another gun, usually in video games, right? So that's why we are checking here if we can stack this item. Now I take a branch, connect this. So if same class and can be stacked, we need to check if there is enough space to stack. Okay, and to do this, we need to get the max stack. The max stack. It doesn't matter to or from, it's the same because it's the same class. So it doesn't matter which one, it will return the same data. So max stack, and that's mounted to a local variable called max stack. And we need to check the quantity of these 2 items combined. So get these 2 plus each other, promote to local variable combined. Now, if the max stack is bigger or equal to combined, that means they can all fit in the same slot and we fit them. Okay, first let's comment this. Check if same class and can be stacked. So now make a branch, check if the max stack is bigger or equal to combined. If true, we can stack them. Then we will go ahead and get the 2 slot, or no, sorry, get a reference at this 2 index, set member, true, and the quantity is max stack, and we need to empty the old one. So duplicate this, get the from index, set member, and empty everything. Okay, sorry, this is here combined, not max stack, combined. Okay, so this, let's comment this. All items can be fit in 1 slot, stack them, and empty the old slot. Now, if they can be fit in 1 slot, then we need to fill the source, the target slot. So 2 index, so 2 slot, we need to fill it with max stack, and we need to set the remainder of the quantity back to the source slot, so from slot. Okay, so to check, so here we need to get the max stack, check if it's bigger than the 2 slot quantity. If it's bigger, we need to check the space left, how many items are left. So we do this by getting the max stack minus the quantity, space left. Then we get the 2. Sorry, let's copy this here and this here. And the quantity is the max stack. So we fill it with max stack. And for the rest, we need to copy this. And for the quantity, we need to get the from slot, split it, the quantity of it minus the space left. And we set it here. Sorry, not this. We need this. Break this like this. Okay. So now comment this, and this will be fill target slot with max stack count, and send the remainder back to the source slot. So let's say we have potion that have 5 maximum stacks, and we drop, for example, and we have quantity of 3, for example, and we drop 4 into it, then the new one will become 5, and the old one will go back to 2. Okay. Next, if false, that means we need to swap the items because the target slot is full, so we need to swap the items. We don't need the branch here actually, so just swap them, and we do this by getting the to index here, and we need to set member in it, and we need to get the from, split it, and connect it. So now the target slot have this source slot data, and now we need to set the source target slot. We need to set the data of the target, and to do this right now it doesn't work because we already overridden the target slot. So before we override it, we need to set a temporary variable, and for that reason we need to get the from and promote it to a local variable. Let's call it temp slot, and now we can set the from to be equal to the temp slot. Okay, swap items. Now here, back to here, what if the class is not the same? We simply swap the items by dragging the false into temp slot here. And finally, we need to update, after everything, we need to update the UI. So here at the start, let's make a sequence. Drag here, this is the first one here, and the second one we need to update inventory UI. Okay, now let's go back here. And for the from index and to index, the from index is this, the dragged object. We need to get the index of it. And the to index is this one, because we are dropping on this one. So we need to get the index of this slot. And to do this, we need a variable. So let's go and create an integer here. Call it slot index. Type integer, and susceptible, expose on spawn, and make it public. So public exposed. And to here, and for the dragged, get slot index, drag it here. Okay, now let's close this. Let's go to our inventory widget. And where we created our widgets here, let's refresh. And from this array index, from the loop, for each loop, get the array index and plug it inside the slot index. Now let's test this out. If we have this function and try to drag it, as you can see, it's creating a drag visual. But the old one is not is still visible. We don't need to make it visible. We need to make it hidden and make it look like an empty spot, like the rest of these, right? Because we are dragging it. So to do this, let's go inside our inventory item slot, and we need to create an empty slot in here, so we can make it visible when we have to, and hide it when we have to. So in here, search for empty slot, and drag it inside the overlay, and recall this overlay, rename it to main overlay, and wrap the rarity border with another overlay called item slot overlay, and the text block also inside this. And for the empty inventory slot, also wrap it with an overlay. Overlay. Call it empty slot overlay, and make both of them the item slot overlay and the empty variable. Okay. And by default, this empty slot overlay is collapsed. Now, so when we on drag detected, we need to get these two overlays. And when we start dragging, we need to hide the item slot, so set visibility collapsed. And for this one, we need to set the visibility to visible. Now, if you go back and drag, as you can see, it's not showing the image anymore, it's showing the empty slot. Great. Now let's duplicate this. And if we start the game and we have all this, we can try and swap them now. So the 3 should become here and the 2 should become here. Great. And that's happening because if I drag the 2 inside the 3 is maximum stack. So what happens is that it's filled, so we need to swap them. Okay, but if I drag the 3 inside the 2, it gives the same output, but however the logic is different because the 3 to 2 actually fills this one with the remainder with 1 because it needs 1 to be max stack, and the remainder is sent back here. But the 2 to 3 is we are just swapping them. Okay, great. Now what if I swap them with an empty slot? It doesn't work because we need to override the on drop for the empty slot. Okay, and let's go ahead and do this. So go to empty inventory slot, and then here we need to override the on drop. And let's go back here and copy most of this. Let's copy this, this, and this, and this. Okay. Create local variable. Over to cast. Create local variable. Okay. Now, when we drop onto an empty slot, we want to set this new item inside this slot, right? But first, we need to check if the slot we are dragging and the slot we dropped on is the same slot. If so, we simply need to unhide the item slot overlay and hide the empty slot overlay from this dragged object. Okay. So first, we need to check if get slot index if it's equal to, or no, we can just check get empty inventory slot if it's equal to self branch. Okay. We need to get the dragged object and get the overlay, get the empty overlay and get the item overlay. And for the item, we need to set the visibility to visible. And for this one, to collapsed. Okay, and we return true. But if it's not the same item, it's not the same slot, sorry, we need to swap them. Okay, so get the inventory and swap items and call this true. And the from index is the dragged object, get slot index. And the to index, we also need to create a variable here similar to the one we created in the item slot inventory widget. So slot index is settable if it was on spawn, and we can make this private. And let's go back in our inventory here, refresh this, and also the array index, just plug it here. And now for the to index, just connect this. Now let's close this and let's test this out. Now if I drag this, let's say here, as you can see, it's swapped. And if I drag this here, it's swapping. And if you close and reopen the inventory, it's still there. Now let's swap these two, it also work. Great. Let's see if I'm missing anything. Oh, this should be it. But oh yeah, we need to override the on drag cancelled here. So on drag cancelled. So on drag cancelled means when the user cancels the drag operation, typically when they simply release the bounce button after beginning a drag operation but failing to complete the drag. So technically, when we drop it somewhere where on drop is not overridden, like here, for example, it just disappeared, right? We need to fix this. So for that reason, when the on drag cancelled, we simply get the item slot overlay and this empty slot overlay and set the visibility of the item slot to visible and this to collapse. So technically, we just revert everything to its state before the drag. So now if I drop here, it will go back to its position. Or here, or anywhere. But here, it will still work. Now, before we create a class, I also want to show you something. So what if we are dragging and we close the inventory? As you can see, I released the button now, but it's still visually here. Okay, so let's prevent this. So to prevent this, let's go to our inventory widget, and then here, where we have this on visibility change assigned, and from collapsed, that's called the cancel drag drop. Cancel any current drag and drop operation. It's that simple. So let's test this out and close it. It will disappear. Okay, great. Now let's create a new object, a new item, just to test how everything is together. So let's make it an apple, for example. And for the apple, let's set the apple data to the rarity command, name to apple, max tag to 6 or 5. And the image, we need to import one. I think I already have it here. Yeah, I already have it here, but I will leave a link in the description for it. So let's just set this here. And we need a mesh. So let's go to fab real quick. Let's look for apple. And just get this one, this green apple, or get anyone you want. Low quality, add to project. Okay, and let's set it here, apple. So it's very small. Let's make it bigger, like 2 or 2.5. and the sphere maybe 50. Now let's drop it here. Okay, let's pick it up. Let's pick these up. And as you can see, I have 6 apples and 5 potions. Now if I swap between them, it works perfectly fine. If I close and open, they will stay in the same positions. As you can see, it's working. Okay, so I think that's it for this tutorial. Yeah, I don't think I missed anything. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope to see you in the next one. And in the next one, we will be creating the drop. We are dropping items from our inventory. And we are also spawning this item class when we drop it. Okay, we are spawning it inside the world where we drop it. So make sure to stick around, and thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next part.